Aloha, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Candice Fox, and I am an intuitive life coach as well as a massage therapist, energy healer, and earth steward. If you have been on my webinars before, thank you so much for joining me and participating in these webinar series. They have been such a magical experience for me and so many people. I've gotten such great comments about how it's helping them start their businesses and get going. And the webinar series, if you've never been here before, is called The 5 Main Roadblocks That Stop You from Manifesting What You Truly Want. And as an intuitive life coach, I do clearings and I help a lot of people move through these transitional phases to help them get out of their own box and into this new place, make this huge change, and start doing what they need to do. Excuse me, I have my other computer on, so the webinar just started on that one. Anyhow, I just want to say thank you, especially give a big shout out to the super women that are here with us today. Yay! I love you, ladies, and anybody else that has found me via Facebook. And I'm so glad you're here and you are in the right place if you are wanting to learn how to put yourself out there as an entrepreneur. I have 2 special guests today, and they'll be joining me in a little while. They are such amazing women who have taken themselves on to this huge level, and they are making an impact in the world and making ripples across nations and countries. And I'll be introducing them a little bit later. So first, I want to do a recap. And I'm actually going to go way back to the very first webinar. It's when I did my introduction. And basically what I talked about then was learning about your inner archetypes, really learning what's the inner environment that's going on inside of you. Because a lot of the times we don't realize that there's parts of us that are acting out and acting up that keep us from starting our businesses, keep us from love, and keep us from like the life that we truly dreamed of. And so we went over the 4 main archetypes of survival, which is the victim, the child, the prostitute, as well as the saboteur. And then the next webinar that I did was all about resistance to change. And I gave a change model to help you understand what level that you might be at sometimes when you're going through change, because change is never easy. It's always an upheaval of emotions, upheaval of environment, and when we can learn how to navigate that and understand what phase we're in, then the transition gets not maybe easier if you're more aware, but also it helps you just get to the next phase so that you can really embrace and accept the change that you're going through. And then last week we did a webinar on believing in yourself. And when you can believe in yourself, nothing else matters. Nothing can get in your way. You can accept all parts of you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you can share yourself with no problem. And then today we're going to be talking about putting yourself out there. Now, I know this is one of the most troubling ones for so many people. I've talked to many people from all over that are starting their businesses, and it's the fear, the anxiety of actually getting in front of a camera or having their picture in a brochure or even just talk to someone and sharing with them their business. It's one of the most difficult things because putting yourself out there means you're putting out your faults, you're putting out maybe your failures, or you're putting out like maybe I'm just not good enough. And again, those are the old stories that we tell ourselves. But when you start a business, this energetic you that had all these ideas is just ready to put yourself out there. Now you just have to get over yourself and put it out there because no one else is like you. Nobody. You are unique in your talents, your gifts, and your experiences and all that you have to share. And if you have this amazing idea, why not share it to the world? I wanted to share with you a long time ago when I started my business. It was about 11 years ago. I became a massage therapist, and I wasn't sure how I was going to get clients. So I started off with the good old word of mouth, and I just started telling people. So I used to work as a cocktail waitress at a restaurant called Indigo Restaurant here in Honolulu. Sadly, they closed a couple years ago. However, it was one of the most amazing places, just lovely people from all around. And I decided to just put myself out there. They'd always say, "Hey, Candace, what are you up to?" And I'd say, "You know what? I'm a massage therapist, and I'm actually looking for clients. I'm getting started with my business, and I'm excited to like start working on people." And most people, especially with my skill, they're like, "Oh, my back, my neck," and they're all just wanting to. They're like, "You know, I could use a massage." And as I shared myself and put myself out there, all of a sudden my business started to grow, and I had clients that were regulars, and then from them they referred their clients or friends or family members, and then I began to have this huge clientele base that is now 11 years later supporting my lifestyle today. And in the beginning I was just so afraid, and I think a lot of the fear also came from like, oh my God, there's so many massage therapists out there. How am I going to get clients? And I was so afraid, but then I heard something. I'm not sure where I heard it from, or maybe it just came from within me. I don't know. But what I realized is that my energy, my vibration is going to attract the right people to me. And I realized this when I actually started working on a friend's client, and she was out of town, and so she wanted me to take over one of her clients. So I did, and you know, I gave her a great massage, but our personality types didn't jive well. And it made sense to me that, you know, these people are attracted to her and these people are attracted to me. And when you think about it, there are so many people in this world, and there's so many people doing maybe what you're doing, and that shouldn't phase you at all, because again, you are unique, and your talents and your abilities, your experiences will go into that, and it will show other people and attract people that are supposed to be with you. And so for me, that was a huge lesson, knowing that no matter what, I was always going to be taken care of, because I was following my dreams. I wanted to be a massage therapist, and in order for that to happen, I had to put myself out there. So I'll also share with you more stories of my new business that I'm working on. But first, I also wanted to share with you a little bit of the housekeeping on the website here. Down below, you're going to see a Get Access button. And what that is basically this platform that I utilize to put myself out there on a huge scale. Basically, when I decided to start these webinars, to start putting myself out there online, I needed to learn how to do it. I needed to learn how to market myself and learn how to maneuver all these online platforms. And the company that I started with, which is from the Get Access button, has really honed my skills. And now I see I'm reaching out to people in Canada, in the UK, in Australia, and all over the world, and all over the United States. And literally in just a few short months, I've created this huge following, and it's just unbelievable. So the Get Access button is one of those, is a registration page if you want to learn more about that and start doing what I'm doing. You can also message me or email me if you have questions. Also, there is I finally put in a comment box, like a chat roll. If you'll see it down below, I'm going to look on my other screen just to make sure where it is. It's called Chatly, and it's down below, and it's like a black box, and it has a purple writing that says Chatly. All you have to do is click on it, and when you click on it, it shows that you can type in it. So if you have any questions or comments throughout this webinar, please inform me and write it down there in the box below. Okay, let's see here. So I'm going to just go ahead and introduce my first guest speaker. She is amazing. Her technical skills are just out of this world. What she's doing with artists, as well as sustainability, as well as just the online world, is just truly outstanding. And I found her in this Facebook group called the Superwoman Connection, and I absolutely love her. We were accountability partners, and we just helped each other like really get our businesses aligned and going. And that's actually one of the things I wanted to like share with you is like when you can get in a group, by putting yourself out there in a group, you can have these amazing accountability partners or people that you're jiving with and running with the herd as you move through your blocks and step into the life that you truly want. So Lisa Burnham, I'm going to welcome you. Thank you so much for being here, and if you'll share with us a little bit about yourself and how you put yourself out there.
Lisa. Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh good. I was like, oh, I gotta unmute myself. Hey everybody, my name is Lisa Burnham, and a lot of my friends call me Lisa B. You know how I got that name, Candace?
How's that?
Because I'm a teacher, and a lot of my kids would just call me Miss B. And I don't know if that just rolled into Lisa B. I think that's probably what happened. So now I'm known as Lisa B instead of Miss B. And I was a teacher for about 20 years, an art teacher, as well as a visual artist. And I think that some of the skill sets with being a teacher is starting to roll into lending itself to doing online marketing. It's really kind of neat to see how you can take one skill set and apply it to something completely different. But yeah, so let's see. We're talking about putting yourself out there, and as a visual artist, it's like right there in front of your face. I mean, that, you know, when you become an artist, or when you decide that you are going to become or have that as your vocation, let's put it that way. Because an artist is one of those things I think you just sort of are. There's not really a transition into becoming one, as far as I'm concerned. You know, I feel like it's something that I've always been. But when you decide to go to school and make it a formal career choice, then you kind of turn a corner with the process, because no longer you're just, you know, in your studio or in your space, you know, creating and putting your soul and your energy and your personality into a creation. You know, it's a lot like having children, because you really are creating something from nothing. It's out of your inner, and it just comes out of you, you know. And, you know, musicians and all matter of artists, you know, have that inside of them. And so creating is creating, right? You know, you're creating something out of thin air. So when you're trying to put that into sort of a box, so to speak, meaning a career, meaning how am I going to make money off of this, you have some choices, you know, in terms of being an artist and trying to monetize that. You could either sell your actual work that you're creating in your studio and be a showing artist, I call it, you know, galleries and art shows and selling work, or you can segue your skill set into teaching, which I did and loved, and absolutely, you know, really found that as something that inspired me, which was helping others to find a way for themselves to be creative, and giving them tools to help them foster their own creativity. Like, I found that to be really something I learned I was passionate about and became really good at it. So and I did show, and I did have gallery shows, and I created work and sold it, and it's showing in my mom actually has a lot of my artwork in her place, and her apartment is very much like a gallery because she collects other art as well. So you know, it's kind of fun to think about it. It is on display, and you know, but as the years went on, I really couldn't lock myself away and just do artwork. I had to think about, you know, the rest of my life, and I became a mom and a wife, and went and went to school, and I actually got my master's in fine art. So I kind of, you know, went off in a couple different directions, and when I really settled into being a mom, a lot of that ended up falling away, and my career, so to speak, was going to have to get sacrificed. It ended up getting sacrificed to the betterment of my family. And you know, this is a whole other discussion, a whole other webinar, of course, And I actually did a webinar with Princess Fizz on her radio show, and we talked all about that, the sacrifices that women make with their career, and how they have to balance their passions and their energies, and and how they want to how that wants to look in their life, how the scales are going to tip in either direction. So, I really kind of said, okay, you know what, I've been teaching for a long time. I really need to spend time with my kids. They're only little once. My husband's career was great, and it worked out that I could say, hey, I'm going to stay home. But as an artist and as a person that just always needed to be doing something and creating, right, I put a ton of energy into the kids, and I put a ton of energy into, just a quality life, and lost a lot of my own personal career motivation, and just, where was that artist girl? Where was that rockin' teacher? And I really needed to make a change, and I wanted something different for my career. I didn't want to continue to be a teacher, because the sacrifices, the way that the schedules were, literally would take me away from the house when the kids needed me the most. I couldn't be a teacher and be home. It just wasn't going to work. So I kind of had to get creative about the kind of career that I wanted to have, because I had a criteria. As we sort of develop in our business minds, like, we have like a list of things that we would like to see happen, what we would like to have happen. That's the criteria, right? So if staying home and being part of your kid's life and having the freedom to do that is one of the criteria, then you're going to have to work around that. So what was my workaround? Well, my workaround was to do everything from the computer. And I said, okay, I can make a career with the computer online. Look at all these people that are doing it. How can I segue my talents and my skills and my passions into an online business? And so for the past couple of years, I've been doing exactly that, trying to figure out how to put all of my creativity, my artistic vision, my skill set for design and color and just imagery and vision, and all the skills that I have. I know a lot about art history. I know a lot about, I understand how to do research. I mean, there's just a lot of skills that I have. So how do I segue that into an online business? Well, I did it a couple of different ways. And one of the big ways that I had to do, was the only choice I had, was to put myself out there. Was to share with everybody, this is the side of Lisa. You may not have seen it, but here it is, And then, you create labels for yourself. You start to get labeled. You start to morph into like what you really are, because you're defined. You're having to sort of title yourself, and as I've worked with branding and helping other people brand and branding myself, I've kind of started to be able to understand the process really well. And it's a lot like, it's a very creative process, and it's very much an organic process, because it's not like you're going to decide that you're one thing and then that's it forever. You may jump around and before you really figure things out. But once you really figure things out, I think all of a sudden, if things start kind of gelling and forming and coming together, you can really feel it. You know when it's working, and you know when things aren't working. You know when you're frustrated. You know that feeling inside of you that's just like, this isn't working. And I started feeling that way for a long time when I was really just the mom at home, and I didn't really have an art studio, and I was really getting frustrated, and I could tell by my behavior. I was definitely, for lack of a better phrase, I was having behavior issues, and because deep down, I wasn't a happy person. I wasn't really feeling the fulfillment of my own creativity, because I was really pumped it into, bringing up the kids and making my home and my family in this happy place, and really ended up sacrificing a lot of my own vision. And so now I'm really taking that back, and I'm really finding this balance between having a house and having a career. Now, side note, my children are now 11 and 16. So, at every phase of our children's lives, we're going to be able to handle different, things, and our presence in the home changes as they get older. You don't have to change diapers, but you definitely want to know what's going on, in middle school. There's just a balance. So, but right now, it's actually a good balance for me. I'm able to really spend a lot of time in my home office and my home studio, which I've created a wonderful balance. My husband, being the awesome contractor builder guy that he is, literally built me an art shack in the garden, and I have a studio in the house, and I go back and forth between my art shack and my office, happy as a camper, and I never have to leave the house except if I need to. So I've created this balance, and at the same time I've put myself out there 100% more than I ever did before. And so isn't that kind of interesting how now I spend all my time at home, but yet I am so much more out there in the world, because I've figured out how to be many places at once, how to be global, how to connect on a global level, and how to structure a business that can reach out into a lot of different niches and fields, and I'm really excited about it. Candace wanted me to talk a little bit more specifically about what I'm actually doing, and I'm structuring my empire, so to speak, by creating a network, and I'm calling it the Green Art Network. So the Green Art Network is kind of at the top of the structure, and down through the rest of it filters a whole bunch of other projects that I'm working on. The Green Seahorse is my current project that is about to be launched very, very soon, within the next 6 weeks, and we're launching at a big green festival here in San Francisco. So that's a really big deal because it's been in the works for probably about 3 years, and it's an eco-friendly project where I am selling artisan crafts made all over the world and supporting fair trade artisans, which supports groups in developed and non-developed countries, very poor people sometimes, and these artist groups are really changing the lives of their families, and and they're taken care of by these organizations that support these artisan groups so that they're not taken advantage of or exploited. So fair trade is a term whereby some real organizations protect them, and I just have finally kind of figured out where I can segue my passion as an artist towards helping other artists. So instead of me having to hide away and create and then put myself out there, and one of my big problems was always, as a visual artist, one of my issues was, okay, so I'm hiding in my studio, I'm creating all this really incredible artwork that comes from my soul, that's all about me, it's not about anybody else. Why would I want to put that in some stranger's house? Why would I want to sell that for money? To me, that never, ever made any sense. And that's why my mom has a lot of my work, because she appreciates it, and she has friends, and she has parties, and people see it, and they appreciate it, and it comes from the heart, and it's not so much like, oh yeah, I bought that, it's really cool. So I never felt right about selling my personal artwork. And what I did to kind of make it okay with myself is I would create artwork that I knew was like more of a series or a product that would sell as a product, or something that I could more say mass produce. Like I used to blow glass. That's one of the things I do, and we used to blow ornaments. We'd make tons and tons of ornaments. We'd sell them in a sale. So very different than the art that I would make as my own personal vision. So there's this real separation between what I put myself out there as, and how I'm an artist, in my own space, and what you choose to put out there, and what you choose not to put out there is up to you, but know that what you do put out there gets seen. So you're building on this perception that other people have of you, and that's what building a brand, that's what a successful brand has or doesn't have. It appeals to a certain audience, and as you learn about marketing and you generate interest in what you're doing, you start to generate this like-mindedness amongst the people that are following you or buying your products, and it becomes this wonderful tribe of people. So, that's kind of how it works. You put yourself out there to the people that you want to come towards you, and I'm an artist, and I want to help artists, and I want to support artists, and I want to share my skills in graphic design, my skills in photography and editing and video, and all these skills that that I have that are really perfect for the online marketplace, and I'll be able to show artists how to put themselves out there, literally, how to create portfolios, how to market themselves, how to create Facebook pages, how to reach people that they want to reach. And there's so many different ways to do that. So what I realized is that in having the struggle of being an artist and what am I going to do and how do I want to make money, I evolved into a person that said, wow, all this stuff happened to me. Let me share my experience. Let me pave the way for some other people with all this cool stuff that I figured out. Because check out all this cool stuff I figured out. And I want to show them, that not only can they be a wonderful artist, but they can also be a business person at the same time. So I'm really excited to be able to share my left brain with my right brain and bring together, this creativity and then this very structured business sense, and so that's what I'm creating, and that's how I'm putting myself out there.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. I love that because you literally are a walking billboard. Whatever you decide to show to people when you go out and about or online, you're literally showcasing who you are, and that's your brand. That's who you are. And I also really like that you shared how we have this balance between family and work and putting ourselves out there. And I'm really excited you shared that because I'm actually going to be starting a new webinar series during the holidays that showcases mommypreneurs or daddypreneurs and how they are going through life with a job, with kids, with the holidays if you're here in North America or wherever you are celebrating Christmas. But I want to become a mom, and as I'm creating my business and being this entrepreneur, it kind of freaks me out because it's like, how am I going to do all of this at one time? So I was like, it's time to put on a webinar so I can learn some tips and tools from other people and maybe there's so many other people in my same position that would like to know how do they do all of this all at one time. So I actually wanted to put that out there to my audience. If you are wanting to be on my webinar, please email me and let me know who you are, what you do, and let's see if you're a fit for this Mommy Daddypreneur webinar. And I'd love to showcase you. So another thing, Lisa, I love all that you're doing because you're literally you're all encompassing, and you've been able to narrow it down into this beautiful box, which is a computer, and you have so many great people you're networking with to make this all happen. And that's basically when you put yourself out there, you're literally creating alliances with different companies, different people to help you along. Because sometimes, when you have a big vision like you do, Lisa, it's tough to just do it all on your own. I mean, you can only grow so much when you're all on your own, but when you put yourself out there and you connect with others, you start building this huge empire, really, and that's awesome. And I'm so thankful that you came on and shared with us your story. I just have one more question for you, Lisa. So When you first started putting yourself out there, like a video or a camera, like a picture, were you afraid? Did you kind of like hesitate in pushing that button to send off, or what was that? What was that like for you?
Well, the process of actually, all right, I'll tell you a funny story, and this will probably give you a good vision into how, I don't know. This will get when I was in art school. So I went to art school. I went to undergrad at Rhode Island School of Design, actually in Providence, and as an art student, you know, we do a lot of figure drawing, you know, and which is nude drawing the nude. And a lot of my work is very figural, which means that it's a lot about the human form. So if you ever see some of the pieces that I've done, I really like naked ladies. It's like one of my things. I happen to love the female form, and I use it a lot in my work. And I'm just all about the women, you know, that's just one of my things. So naked ladies is just this theme that kind of ran through a lot of my work and through being in art school. And so when I was an art student, actually a really good way to make some cash was to be one of the models for the drawing classes. And you know, of course, being on work study, I was like, yeah, I'll make $8 an hour sitting on a platform for a couple of hours, like easy money, right? So I was a figure model for classes for a long time. I did it, and it was really fun. And I basically, you know, would sit in the middle of a room nude for like hours on end, having people draw me. And then it segued into some photography. So as an artist, like I basically like threw myself, my physical self, into a lot of my work. And you know, and as an art student, you do a lot of self-portraits. You know, it's very self-awareness oriented, being an artist. Like there's a lot of, you know, coming to terms with yourself, like how you look, and you kind of go through a lot of evolution of what you want to use. Like sometimes you might use your hands or whatever, and so I really was already like in art school, like I was doing a lot of that. So and then again, like make great cash, and then I'd come out with all these really cool photos, you know, and some of them were better than others, but it was a really good gig for a while. So I kind of got used to being in front of the camera, literally like naked. And as I got older and didn't want to do that so much and had kids and stuff, you know, and I'll tell you, they don't even know, really. They've never seen any of these photos. I mean, they're artsy, fartsy, but yeah, they're, you know, they're naked pictures, you know. So like as I'm now into this new genre, you know, I haven't put any of that stuff out there, but I'm just comfortable, you know, with my own face, I guess. I don't know. And, you know, I do a lot of selfies all the time, you know, and you know, I'm not going to like throw up a selfie like the second I do it. I definitely want to look good. I'm not obsessive about it, but I kind of like, it works into my artwork. It just kind of works into my artwork. Like I've been working myself into my work for a long time. So I just kind of, I don't know. I guess that's the long answer of it. I started off naked, and that's the story.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. And I think you said a really key thing is you were comfortable with yourself. You're comfortable with your face. And that's how it starts to happen when you just start doing these selfies or videos or putting yourself out there in any way. All of a sudden, you just start getting comfortable. I have to say, finally today, this webinar, I didn't have the nerves like I used to. Like before each of those other webinars, I literally had to ground myself and like do some deep breathing. But this time around, I'm finally starting to get comfortable.
It just takes practice, you know.
It takes practice, and so thank you for that. I appreciate that. So I actually have another woman. You probably see her down below. She is also my other accountability partner, and she and she and I had met through the Superwomen group as well. And when I heard her voice and her sincerity and she like just literally wears her heart on her sleeve. Like I was like, I have to get to know this woman. She is so talented musically as well as like online. She really has this emerging wonderful business that she's working on that's reaching out to people all over the world as well. So I want to introduce Terry Nicholson. And Terry, if you'll come out and again introduce yourself, let us know how you put yourself out there as well as some tips or tools that you can share with our audience.
All right, yeah, can you hear me now?
I sure can, and she's from Australia.
Woohoo! Yes, different accent. Thank you for having me, Candice. It's so special to be here. I was up in the forest with my kids this morning and there's a whole bridge fixing thing, so I'm sorry I'm late, but here I am. And yeah, same, just felt such a connection as soon as I connected with you in the Superwomen group as well, and so to then be along on this journey to get and to be able to then invite it, you know, to be invited onto your webinar to share is just beautiful. And it's lovely how as women or as entrepreneurs online we can just support each other. So many beautiful ways to share the amazing stories and wisdom that we do have to pass on. And that is about putting ourselves out there. So a little bit about me. I'm an Australian mum of 3 boys. We live out in the bush next to the rainforest, and for me, living close to nature is just so important, so important. And so for me, doing stuff online gives me the freedom to be able to just do bits and pieces while I can with my kids. And you know, that's just one of the beauties of this kind of space. I've got a couple of stories I'd love to share about my experience of putting myself out there, and it can be a really big deal, you know, like it can be really scary for us. Like there can be parts of ourselves that just get really freaked out about being rejected, being judged, being criticized in some way, or just, you know, it can just tap into a part of us that is really fearful of doing that, to put ourselves in front of the camera, to be seen. And it's often quite a mystery as to why it terrifies that part of us so much, but it's just really important, I think, to acknowledge that, because yeah, there can be like a push. We can just be pushing against ourselves, expecting ourselves to be able to just step into putting ourselves out there. And I think it's actually really important to just go, okay, there's a part of me that might be really scared, but there's also another part of me that absolutely wants to put myself out there and knows will thrive and has so much to offer. So I just want to remind you who are watching this to remember that we have these different parts of ourselves, and one part can be scared, but there's other parts that are just waiting to flourish and just need that encouragement, and to know that you can acknowledge that scared part as well as move forward with the parts that do want to step out and put yourself out there. And what I actually want to share before I share one of my stories of putting myself out there is something I shared on one of the Superwomen calls a few weeks ago. It was the call on the Drive for Meaningful Challenges, and it's in our archive. If you're not in the Superwomen group, ask Candice to get in, because it's an amazing archive, incredible calls. But I won't go into the whole bit, but the thing I wanted to share is that think about a time, or think of the times that you might have been criticised or judged or had some kind of negative feedback when you put yourself out there. Like, count it up on your hands almost, of how many times that really gutted you, you know, like that actually altered your identity really. And not just someone sort of saying something mild, oh, that you didn't do that very well or something, but something that really, really hurt. And so just, you know, is that 3 times in your life? Is that 7 times in your life? Is that 20 times? Is it 100 times? You know, just briefly scan through your history and go, And Brendan Burchard, who is where I got this little bit of information from, he said he's surveyed like hundreds of thousands of people this same question, and the second question I'm going to ask in a minute, and 7 is pretty much the number that always comes back. Like 7 times in our lives basically is when we've had negative criticism that's really deeply hurt. And so the second part to this question is imagine and think of all the times you've been encouraged in a positive way, that people have just cheered you on, have said, you can do this, or I believe in you, or what a great job you did then, or just poured positive encouragement into you when you put yourself out there. And is that 3 times? Is that 7 times? 20 times? 100 times? 1,000 times? And for me, I immediately am like, gosh, hundreds, thousands, like this endless times when I've been encouraged, or that I've got amazing feedback when people have felt inspired by whatever I've done in putting myself out there. So it's just a real reality check, I think, to go, wow, who am I going to give weight to? The 5, 7 times that I've had negative feedback that's really hurt, or the hundreds or thousands that have had positive feedback, and to go, well, which voices am I going to listen to, and which am I going to allow to impact my decision of whether I put myself out there or not? So for you watching, I just encourage you so much to weigh them up and go, oh my gosh, there is so much more weight in the positive responses to you putting yourself out there. And just to always remember that it's a choice always whether we give that energy to those negative comments or not, and we can always choose and remember that it's just so much bigger, the positive one. So I want to jump into a story. So I am a singer-songwriter, and I've got many hats. Like I'm a mum, of course, and an environmental activist. I'm very involved around fracking and gas field-free communities. And so I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm a healer. This is one of the reasons Candice and I first connected, was because we're both practitioners in the healing space. And so I've got this bunch of hats. And one of the things, before I just jump into my actual story, is that I often thought, if I'm going to put myself out there, I have to decide what I am. So am I a singer-songwriter putting myself out there, or am I doing my healing herbal medicine work? Is that my thing, or am I doing parenting stuff? And I thought that I somehow had to decide which was my niche and only stick to that. And so being online has just felt like it just let me drop feeling like I had to do one thing. And I really heard what you were saying, Lisa, and I love your stories and examples of how you've woven all of this together and you're sharing yourself. And so that's what it feels like now with blogging and with doing video stuff and with this sort of online platform that I'm using. It just feels like I can share about whatever I'm passionate about and still weave my business into that. And that's just so liberating to me. I don't have to fix myself into a box, and it's meant that it feels much easier to put myself out there because I'm just being me. Like, I'm not trying to be me as a singer-songwriter only. I'm a me as all these different facets and interests and passions and stories and wisdom that I can pass on. So yeah, I just think that's a really important aspect of putting yourself out there, is bringing your whole self to it somehow. Because then you can just relax. You're just being yourself. You're just being yourself. But the story I wanted to share, because one of the big times I've really put myself right out there, really, really visible, was when I did an online launch of my music album. So I had heard of a strategy of doing an online launch, and I was like, when I heard that, I was like, I am going to do that. But it actually took me a year or a year and a half before I actually got the courage to do it. And I was pregnant with my 3rd child, and I saw that I had this little window when I could just like go for it and create this online launch of my album. And so I was just like, right, the time is now, one baby at a time. I thought, I can do this, baby. I can launch my album now, but I'm going to have a new baby in a few months, and I'll just have to focus on that other. So the vision was to launch my album and actually get to #1 on the Amazon bestseller charts. And so there's a whole sort of online strategy around how I did, how I was going to do that. But gee, it certainly involved putting myself out there. I had to, share what was going on Facebook and really help people connect with my vision and what I was doing. I put all of in the offline media, like all my local newspapers, and my stuff was out there everywhere saying, this is my plan, this is what I'm going to do, and inviting people to come and connect in. So I just felt incredibly vulnerable a few times, just going, oh my gosh, I just feel so vulnerable, having myself in my face and saying, this is my goal, this is what I'm planning to do, just out there in front of everyone, and feeling like, well, what if I don't manage to do that, or what if it all just goes flop, or what if I just, somehow make a fool of myself. There was just all this fear that would come up about that, and I just kept remembering my vision, remembering my why, and kind of just keeping on coming back to the reason why I was doing it. And that classic, quote of, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I just kept stepping back into one step at a time, just keeping on moving towards what my goal was, and just visually imagining those fears just dropping away in each moment. And so it came right down to launch day, and like my album was like 260,000th on the bestseller charts before launch day, and within hours, literally, my album had gone dunk, 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 and it got to #1 on 3 category charts, on bestseller Amazon charts, and above Eva Cassidy and Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen, all these incredible singer-songwriters I respect so much. So it was just the most amazing journey to see that happen, and to have put myself out there. And for me, part of it was about sharing my music with the world. Part of it was taking on that internal challenge of sharing myself. Part of it was creating an income for my family. Part of it was about inspiring other people about what's possible. And so the feedback that I got, especially on launch day where it was just on fire, so many people were and still are so inspired by this story of a completely unknown singer-songwriter from out in the bush in Australia who's 8 months pregnant. Well, I was 8 months pregnant when launch day happened. That could skyrocket to #1 on Amazon charts with no budget, totally doing stuff online and through connecting with people around the world. And so I love it that when we put ourselves out there, the ripple of inspiration that happens goes so much further than we realize is going to, or we touch lives in ways that it's just so beautiful. And that's one of the things I actually often hang on to if I'm feeling scared to put myself out there. I think, wow, there's going to be someone's life touched that I may never even meet, but something I share, something I say will touch them, because whenever I hear other people's stories, something touches me. And just to remember and trust that what you share is important, and it matters, and it will matter to someone or many, and you'll be making a difference in the world just by being your authentic self and putting yourself out there. So that's a really powerful thing. I think it's so important to remember. And yeah, that's one of my stories of putting myself out there, and so it's so rewarding. And I wanted to mention, so right around that launch day, I was just flooded with people saying, my gosh, this is so inspiring, wow, 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 just loving me up basically. It was just so beautiful, and loving my music, which was really meaningful for me. And there was like one comment, someone said, oh, this is all about the marketing, it's not about the music, or something like that. And even though I was getting all these incredibly inspiring positive feedback, that one little comment totally went and was like, oh no, am I coming across the wrong way? I'm coming from a place that's so genuine. It brought up my stuff basically right there and then. And so it was just one of those times that I also had to remember, okay, there's just this flood of positive comments and impact from me putting myself out there, and I just need to actually keep my focus on those and acknowledge the other one. Maybe that might be some constructive feedback or whatever, but not to let myself wallow into that a slightly negative comment. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. I love that you shared that, because there are so many naysayers in this world, and they will try to pull you down. And I actually learned in one of the seminars, it's like these, as you begin to move from this level to this level, you're like stuck in this crab pot, and then there's other crabs that just want to pull you down because they like the way that you used to be, and as you step into this new part of yourself, they just want to pull you down, and you're like the crab trying to climb out of the bucket. And sometimes the naysayers are some of the people you love the most, and it's all of their fears, and they're worried about you. And it's tough because when you do put yourself out there, you hear these naysayers say things, and it's like beating down on you, and you second guess yourself, you doubt yourself. But I love that you said when you love your whole self and you be with your whole self, you accept all parts of you and you just go for it. You go for it because you know it's going to make a difference. You go for it because it's fulfilling this peace within you that it's just like, I need to come out and share myself with the world. And it's so important because somewhere out there is going to hear it, and it'll push them to their edge and help them jump over the bridge and get to this next level. Can
I say something about that?
Yes.
Well, when you started talking about that, my mind kind of jumped into, bullying, really, when, in school, because my daughter actually gets a lot of, she has through the years, been the victim of bullying. And, it's a really hard thing for a kid, there were years where she would just come home crying every day after school because, and it's like you can't really explain what is in a child's mind to want to lash out and hurt somebody. But when you get older, when the kids get older, now she's in middle school, so she's, understands a little bit more about how she's putting herself out there, okay, and how it's being perceived, right? And as young women, this is a difficult time period between just starting adolescence right in through your 20s, You really are evolving as a woman, and it's like you want to be noticed, right? There's this like fine line between like, yeah, you want to feel pretty or noticed, but you don't want to feel violated, right? Or made fun of, or made to feel like you're doing it in a bad way. There's so many variables, but know if this is true, but I say to her, look, she's a really pretty girl. And I say, look, you're a really pretty girl. If these people are having an issue with you, Elle, then it's their problem. It's their issue. I know that she has a big heart. All her teachers always tell me what a good friend she is, and it's funny because she's always the one who's sort of the victim. And I see it as a pattern, and I think she's had to sort of get tougher as the years have rolled on. I've been like, you just got to let it roll off your back a little bit. You can't be such a wussy. Like, you got to, like, tough it out a little bit. It's like there's only so much, you can coddle somebody until you've really got to send them out on their way. Like, go ahead, deal with it yourself. And it's kind of like that in business. You've got to be able to stand up for yourself, put on a happy face, and tough it out, and just move on. Forget about it. Move on. So
just stay connected with your why. Staying connected with your why, your big why, just helps that so much, doesn't it? Hey.
Oh yeah.
You're thinking, okay, well, I've got a bigger vision than paying attention to those things. You think I haven't got the space and the time in this beautiful life to actually give all my focus and just end up wallowing in that. It's time to just move on. And if you'd finished, Lisa, I had one more thing to share. Is that okay? Yeah? I didn't mean to interrupt you. One of the things that this model that was kind of explained to me, which just makes so much sense, is that you know, we've been talking about these different parts of ourselves, and say we see our vision, our passion, our dreams, our goals, and we really have this deep desire to move towards them. And as we start taking steps towards them, the other parts of ourselves that are fearful or doubting or whatever, like the act of us moving towards our dreams triggers them to just like flare up. And so just to know that that is totally normal response for our whole system, and so that, you know, we do need to be on the, it's like leaning into the tension a little bit. You're leaning into a tension. So moving to your dreams does flare up these parts, and to acknowledge them and to self-nurture along the way. And so stepping back away from our dreams also can often make us feel actually more comfortable, because we've taken the pressure off those parts that we're getting a bit worried about putting ourselves out there. So I just think it's good to have that sort of, yeah, that model where we realise there's this dance between the parts of us that want to flourish in our dreams and the parts of us that are scared, and that we do move back and forth, and that's okay to just, you know, nurture those parts and reassure those parts that are scared while we continue to move towards our really big why and our big goals. I just think that's so important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Terry. That was beautiful. I mean, I love the aspect of being able to understand that other piece of you, because that's what we talked about in the last webinar, is like really understanding those parts of ourselves that we disown, that we don't like, that's a failure or that is fearful. And when we can accept all those pieces of us, it begins to create this authentic self where our wave, we can experience life as humanly as possible and move through it with ease and grace, because we know that we go into these deep, dark places, and at the same time, we know we can be the most beautiful, wonderful person at the same time. So, lovely. I appreciate you, Terry. Thank you so much for jumping on, and I love her voice, people. I know that she has been making ripples in the world sustainably, musically, and she's going to continue to still put herself out there, and there's so much more that I'm excited to see what she's going to create. So thank you.
Thank you, Candice. You're so welcome. And may I sing a song, a very short 2-line song?
I would love to hear it.
Yes, please.
Because it just feels like it fits, and it's actually a song in Spanish. I didn't write this one, but the first couple of lines translate as, "Who says that everything is lost? I come to offer my heart. So much blood has been carried by the river, but I come to offer my heart." And it won't be easy. I won't go on to translate it all, but it's basically about offering your heart and realizing that, yes, there's tough times, but you're just coming back to continuing to offer our heart. And it feels like that when we just have to keep coming back to that when we're putting ourselves out there, coming back from that genuine, heart-centered, authentic place inside ourselves, and just doing it. So maybe close your eyes, listen in. ¿Quién dijo que todo está perdido? Y yo vengo a ofrecer mi corazón. Tanta sangre que se llevó el río, y yo vengo a ofrecer mi corazón, y no será tan fácil, ya sé qué pasa. No será tan simple como pensaba, como abrir el pecho y sacar el alma, una cuchillada del amor. ¿Quién dijo que todo está perdido? Y yo vengo a ofrecer mi corazón. There you go.
Thank you, Terry. What a beautiful webinar. Before we end this webinar, I wanted to share with you one of the things that really got me going in my business is putting myself out there to groups. I mentioned it earlier, and this group that all three of us are in, it's called the Super Women Connection. And if you are a lady or a man that knows of a lady that would really benefit from this, we are starting a 7-day boot camp. We're all actually already 1 day in. However, we're coming together to support each other, encourage one another as we start putting ourselves out there and making our dreams come true. And it's been just a lovely experience being with this group. I mean, I met Terry and Lisa on it, and my life is truly forever changed, and I'm continuously progressing forward. And even though the group is online, the love that pours through is so intense. It's like when I'm doing something on my own, I hear this like fate sound in the distance, like, like you can do it. And being a part of that group has just been giving me that courage, that the feeling like I can do it, and I'm here, and I'm doing these webinars, and I'm starting to share my vision with the world, which is, you know, opening up a wellness center so that people can heal these self-limiting beliefs and understand the programs that are like programmed within them that cause them to act out and not achieve what they really want in this world. Which, by the way, my husband and I are going to be starting a 90-day coaching series that's going to be happening after the new year. And we're starting to put that together, and I just wanted to mention it here and now because I got to put it out there. It's going to be freaking amazing, and so many lives will be transformed as they participate in this. Because my life has, and I went through a 3-year school in order to understand all these aspects of me, my wounds, my self-limiting beliefs, and coming into my own. And so that'll happen at the start of the new year. And again, the next webinar series, which is about mompreneurs and dadpreneurs, if you are interested, please email me and let me know. I'd love to have you on this webinar and showcase you as well as your business and what you're doing out there. And I want to learn from you too as I step into this new place of being a wife and hopefully one day being a mom. So thank you. That is it, ladies. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Lisa, for being here and putting yourselves out there. There's so much to do when you put yourself out there, so just take it one step at a time. One of the homeworks that I wanted to have you do for this webinar is actually take a selfie. Pull out your camera, your phone, or whatever you have, and take a picture of yourself, and I want you to make a funny face. So I'm going to do it with right now. And I'm going to have you take a picture of yourself, and I want you to put it up on your Facebook and tag me in it, Candice Mata Box. And that way we can see everyone putting themselves out there. So I think that's the most perfect homework assignment, especially if you're afraid to even put a selfie out there. Thank you, guys. Yay! Thank you, Lisa, Benny. If you have any questions, please email me, and stay tuned next Tuesday, October 21st, for the last roadblock we'll be revealing, and that will be the end of the series. And if you just joined on and you want to learn more about the past webinars, again, email me and I'll send you the links to those. Thank you so much. And anyone have any last and final comments?
Just be yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you so much. Aloha.